Today I'm talking to Heather about her journey. After experiencing a series of severe ear infections, Heather lost her hearing and developed a Bell's palsy and a serious long-term condition called ankle vasculitis. She will tell us more about the profound impact that this had on her and also the remarkable journey that she's had back to work and back to health. She'll talk about some of the hard lessons that she's learnt and the mindset shift that made the most difference. She's got so many valuable insights to share with us today. Heather, thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your story. I wonder if you could tell us about your life before this happened. So maybe if I'd met you a year before those first ear infections, how would you describe yourself in your life?
I was a happy, outgoing, bubbly person. I was out most weekends for the rugby, listening to music and just singing in the bedroom, as you do, working full time, just doing normal day-to-day stuff, socialising, things like that.
Yeah, I know rugby's always been an important part of your life. Is that going to matches and things?
Yeah, follow my team home and away every game.
And were you sitting well more or less beforehand?
Yeah, I was quite active. I could walk with no struggles, things like that.
Yeah.
It was quite healthy, happy.
Yeah. And I think it was about a year ago, wasn't it? Perhaps you can tell us when things first started looking quite different with your health.
Yeah, so at the end of January 2025, I was having severe earache in my right ear. I've been to the pharmacy who said it was from his ear, which is like a basic ear infection. They gave me drops. It didn't work. So I went to the doctors a week later, and I went to the doctors 5 or 6 times, and I was given different antibiotics, different drops, different steroids. None of that was working. I'm losing fluid from my right ear at this point, but the pain was unbearable. I ended up taking myself down to A&E, and they did something similar. They gave me more antibiotics and drops, and again, nothing was working. So this was February. It wasn't until March 25 did I end up getting admitted to hospital. From then, I had further tests done. I was then starting to lose fluid from my left ear. I pretty much lost my hearing in my right ear, but I never got diagnosed at this point. The fluid, I had several operations on my ears to drain the fluids from my ears, but it didn't work. The fluid ended up causing nerve damage to my brain, which then caused Bell's palsy. I had to learn to eat again, drink again, speak again.
Some people might not be familiar with Bell's palsy. Can you explain a bit what that's about?
Yeah, so it's seventh nerve damage to the brain, which controls your facial muscles. So the right side of my face dropped. My right eye bulged out because I ended up having inflammation of mass behind my eye. My eye wouldn't shut. I had to have a weight put on my eyelid. I had to take my eye shut. My right side of my mouth was shut, which meant my speech, my eating and drinking, that I was drinking through a straw, through a beaker, through a sippy cup at 37 years old. It wasn't pleasant. That was a challenge in itself, because for someone who loves the food, to not being able to eat and having to learn to eat again, just like trying to put a fork on a spoon in my mouth with like a yogurt, that was difficult because that wasn't me.
Oh, that's really tough, isn't it? So you had a series of ear infections that were just not getting better, and that led to an inflammation which kind of basically dropped your face down on one side, made it really difficult to, as you say, to speak and to eat and so on. And of course, that controls your eye, doesn't it? So you don't realise that you need to blink as well, don't we? So you had your eye open. And there was a relationship, I think, between what happened and a new condition that they then found, wasn't there?
Yeah, so I think it was around May time I was diagnosed with ankle vasculitis. So prior to this, I was living in chronic pain. I was having nosebleeds, plus the fluid from my ears. So vasculitis naturally slows your body down. So I wasn't walking as quick as a normal person would. There was times in hospital where I was in a wheelchair because I couldn't move. I ended up using a crutch. I ended up on a walking stick for that to help me build my strength up, because like 3.5 months in hospital, you're getting weaker and weaker. and there's only me that can do something about that. So I ended up trying to build my strength up. I was recording my journey. So I was showing the nurses that I was still mobile. Even though I wasn't the quickest, I was still mobile because I wasn't letting anything beat me.
Yes, yes. And that's definitely come through in some of the photos and videos you shared with me, which I hope to somehow build into this video as well. Again, anchor vasculitis is quite a rare condition, isn't it? Can you tell us a bit more about anchor vasculitis, what it is and how it affects you?
Yeah, so vasculitis is a rare autoimmune disease. So it's inflammation of the blood cells or the blood vessels. My body can attack itself. It is that rare. I think it's like 1 in 20 people per million per year get it. And because it is that rare, there's a lot of tests that have to go into it. So even though I'd started with the ear infection in January, it turned out that I had inflammation in my ears. So any drops or antibiotics I was having for treatment for the ear infection, it wasn't working because the inflammation was in the way. So to treat I think it was otitis media, which is an aggressive middle ear infection, they had to get rid of the inflammation to treat it. So, but we didn't know this until I think it was May. But by this point, before I got my diagnosis, I'd fully lost my hearing in my right ear and most of my hearing in my left ear.
That's a massive, profound change, isn't it, to lose your hearing? You had other symptoms as well. You talked about nosebleeds. How did it for you?
So again, it's just the blood vessels, inflamed blood vessels just bursting. So I could just cry and then it'd start a nosebleed off. I could move wrong, I could breathe wrong, and my nose would just start bleeding with no warning at all. It's just literally inflammation of my blood vessels.
And you talked about pain as well.
Yeah, pain was the most difficult. I was on a lot of painkillers. I was on over 50, 60 tablets a day. I was on morphine as well. Morphine wasn't touching the pain. And this is one of the hardest parts of the journey is mentally. When you're living in chronic pain, the only way out is not wanting to be here anymore because you can't carry on living the way that you were. Because of the pain, there was no sleep. So I was sleep deprived for weeks and weeks on end. I had several surgeries on my ears and I was looking forward to going under general anaesthetic just so I could get that rest. That was what it come to. So my mental well-being had totally gone out the window. It was frightening as well because my family come to visit me quite regularly. And at the time, I think my nephew was 5. And hospitals are quite overwhelming for youngsters anyway. But when I'm walking around with wires coming out of me, walking around with drips on me and having my eye taped up and my eye bulging and not being able to talk properly, and it was difficult because I was scared to look at him because I was scared in case I frightened him.
Yeah. That sounds like a real low point. And you talk about it sounds exhausting, but it also sounds really distressing and frightening.
Yeah, it was because I had to rely on treatment to pull me through. There's nothing that anything or anyone that could have done. So it was hard to see my dad, my sister or my friends at the bottom of my bed, knowing that there's nothing that they can do. You know, it was down to my body and the treatment that I was receiving. Because if it does get to my kidneys or my lungs, then it can be fatal for me. That's my reality. But I don't think about that.
Did you have feelings about whether or not you would get better? Did you know?
Going through it at the time, before my treatment started in June, I was on 50, 60 tablets a day, plus morphine, oxycodone, the painkillers. Nothing was touching it. So I didn't think that. I just thought that this was it. This was it for me. And I suffered.
Of course you did. It sounds like a real time of grief as well and loss.
Yeah, so it was upsetting because I remember going in the bathroom one day and I was looking in the mirror, bearing in mind my face is like disfigured, my hearing had gone. I hadn't had any hearing aids at the time. I was looking in the mirror, my nose was bleeding, I'm crying. And the reason why I was crying was because I didn't recognise the person who was looking back, because the person I was looking at wasn't me. It wasn't the me I remembered. I wasn't smiling anymore. I wasn't happy. I just wanted to give up.
I've seen that video, Heather, which we can share if you'd like to. I also found that really, really moving, seeing that. It's obviously a really distressing time when you noticed your eye and your nose is bleeding. Yeah, really tough time, really tough time. And did you think at any point that there was a specific turning point?
When I got my diagnosis, then, which was May, and then I had to get prepared for treatment, which was in the June. That was my last shot. It was like that was a treatment, that it was that or nothing. And then when I finally had it, I did notice that things were easing off a little bit. The pain was still there, but it wasn't as bad. The nosebleeds weren't as frequent. So even though the symptoms were still there, improvements were coming. And I knew at that point that I'm under the right care, because I was having all these different tests with all these different specialists until we knew where I needed to be. And when we got there, that was when everything changed. So currently I'm under the right care, the right team, the right treatment.
The right care, the right team, the right treatment. Getting that diagnosis sounds incredibly important. And obviously that's critical to your management going forward, isn't it? Because tell us a bit about what you now have to do to keep on top of things.
So I'm on tablets daily. I'm not on as much as I used to be, especially in terms of like pain relief, because the treatment that I'm on is rituximab, which I am currently on every 6 months, but we are looking to increase the frequency or the dosage of that. That is a autoimmune suppressant, is it? So basically it tries to keep things at bay, so it will kill my immune system. So I currently live with no immune system at all.
That's a big deal, and I'm sure that your life has changed significantly. I know you started a rehabilitation program, and I wonder if you could tell us a bit about what that looked like, what kind of things you did, perhaps even what a typical week of rehabilitation looked like. What did you focus on? What felt important to you?
A lot of it, my mind wanted to do everything all at once. It's to get better overnight. I wanted to go back to work. I wanted to go back to the rugby. I wanted to see my friends. I wanted my hearing back. I wanted to do everything, but that's not the reality of it. You just have to do things one step at a time. So when I got out of hospital, my mobility was quite poor. So I started off with physiotherapy, hydrotherapy. I think I mentioned before, crutch, walking stick. I'm currently on nothing. I am unaided now. I was under audiology, so I now have, it's called a cross hearing aid. So in my right ear, because I'm fully deaf, that is a microphone. My left one is a hearing aid, and I fully rely on these to hear. So the right microphone picks up the sound, crosses it over to the left, and I hear from my left. Getting back into work was part of my journey. I knew that I was never going to be the person I used to be before it all happened. I was never going to be 100% fit again. So with different help from specialists, I learned that what a normal, regular person would feel 100%, this is now my 70, 80%. Or what is my 100 will be 70, 80 to someone else. So I've had to accept that. I had to grieve for the old me and then accept these changes, which it was difficult to do, but I had to do it if I wanted to live a normal life again. So going back to work, I was off work for 7 months, in hospital for 3.5, 4 of them. With help from yourself, speaking with HR, I went back to work in September, doing 2 hours a day for a week, and then 3 hours a day, 4 hours a day. In December, I went back full time, and I am still doing full time now.
So that process of your return to work, can you tell us a bit more about how it went and, what you had to do to get back into work? That must have been huge for you to be off for so long and then to be thinking, well, will I be able to do this? And how do I do this? And
yeah, I was nervous about going back after being off for so long. But the longer you're off work, the harder it is to get back in. And getting back into work was the best thing I did, because it was the final part of my journey. get back into normality, to going back to work, seeing my colleagues again, seeing my friends again, and getting back into a normal routine. So I just started off with light tasks, just like emails, things like that. We broke down my work tasks, green, amber and red for the easy tasks, be a little bit more complex than the ones that were just a no-go at that time. So we broke that down with yourself and my boss, and they were happy and really accommodating for that as well. And work have been so supportive.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there were some adjustments as well, weren't there, to how you worked. Can you recall some of the things that you kind of asked for to make life a bit easier? We call them adjustments. Like what types of things?
Yeah, so in order to get back to work, I have to have like a microphone which I wear around my neck, which connects to my laptop, because if you're on like a Teams call, I can't put earphones in my ears, so I can't listen. That was one. I've access to a disabled toilet. I am now a blue badge holder, so it was finding space parking at work, like knowing where they were. Having a buddy system. So, for example, if the fire alarm went off, I wasn't allowed in the building on my own. Someone had to be there with me. So, in case of a fire alarm, someone would be there to help me down the stairs. Because obviously, like 3 flights of stairs. Well, it's 6. I'm on the 3rd floor. You can't use a lift in the emergency. So there was things like that.
So it took you a few months to get back to work. But you started at 2 hours a day. And I think this will interest some people, because there are people who might be surprised that you didn't wait until you were better before starting work. But it seems as though you feel that work was an important part of you getting better.
Yeah, definitely. And I wasn't going to wait until I felt 100%, because my new 100% is 70% to somebody else. And until you learn to accept that you could be sitting around waiting to get back into work feeling, oh, I won't go back to it till 100%. But getting back into work could push you to your 100%. You've got the socialising with your colleagues, seeing your colleagues again, doing your work. That is all part of your healing journey. That is all part of your process. So if you are thinking of not getting back into work, I'd highly recommend that you try it, at least do a phased return to work. No one's saying go back in work full 7 hours a day. Do a phased return and see how you are. Build it up. I started on 2 hours a day in September, and it took me till December to do it full time. And it was the best thing I ever did. And it was the final part of my journey.
Yeah, it's a massive milestone to get back to work full time. And I just acknowledge your huge determination in that, Heather. I mean, honestly, it's it's extraordinary to go from where you were back to working full time. And I think that would surprise a lot of people, and seeing you in your hospital bed and with your nosebleeds and really struggling a lot with pain. Can you tell us a bit about the physical journey in terms of the rehabilitation? You said you started off not being able to walk very well.
Yeah. So fatigue is a massive part of my life now. So anything that I do comes with a consequence. So 6 months ago, I couldn't walk around a supermarket without crying because my legs were aching. I couldn't stand up for that long. Or my arms were aching for pushing a shopping trolley. I was having to sit in the shower because I couldn't stand. So things like that. Cleaning the house, what used to take me a day, now takes me 2 rooms at a time. My mind and my body were no longer aligned anymore. So my mind was still telling me that you can do all these things, you can still do it. But then my body was telling me, no, you can't do it. You need to learn to pace yourself. So I was trying to push myself as far as I wanted to go, but I did suffer. So doing a shop in a supermarket, it would mean that night or the following day, I would be tired and I wouldn't want to get out of bed. So I learned that to start with, an online shop would be better, or just making a list and just getting the items that I need instead of going up and down. Sometimes now I do still have to sit down in the shower, but that it is what it is. Like can't change that. But I am getting better in terms of my strength with my legs.
And how far can you walk now?
Quite far now. I kind of can walk a couple of miles now, I think.
Yeah, that's amazing. You're no longer using a crutch or a stick.
No, it's all unaided. I can get breathless, and I might need to rest.
Yeah.
But it's all part of pacing.
Yeah, that's great. And I'm curious about the difference between being determined and being well paced. What have you learned about how to pace yourself?
I've learned not to listen to myself. So my mind still tells me I can do it, and I know I can do it. So I purposely stop before I get to a breaking point. So even though I could probably say, for example, tidy the house, I could probably do 3 rooms and be okay. I stop at 2. So it's just knowing when to stop so you don't suffer the consequences afterwards.
It sounds as though you're also progressing upwards as well. How does that work?
So it's trial and error. Everyone's different. People know their own know their own bodies, know their own strength, what they're capable of, and it's taking that and just breaking it up into smaller sections. For example, like your shopping. Don't go around doing a full shop thinking you can do it, because like me, I couldn't. And I suffered, but each time I went a little bit further. So I didn't just make a list and then just get them bits. So I did to start with, but then I've had a few more things, or I'll just have a look at another aisle, or just things like that, or I'll walk to the cafe, then I can sit down after this walk. But it's knowing. Like I say, it's trial and error. So you have to kind of mess about with it to see what you can and can't do and build from there. But try and stop before you kind of burn yourself out, or before you suffer, before you become in pain again.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it sounds like what you did was looking at finding yourself a baseline of activity that you can do, and then trying to build on that rather than pushing yourself so hard that you were in pain or exhausted the next day and really struggling. And it sounds like you had to learn to hold back a bit and to just gently nudge forward rather than pushing.
Yeah, so I'm a determined person. Whether it's being at home or being at work, I always set the bar quite high. I always have to try and push myself a little bit further just to better myself. And sometimes it's not always doable, not anymore. I do still set the bar high, but it's not as high as it would have been.
And you talked about the emotional impact and how tough it's been for you.
Yeah.
Is there anything more you'd like to say about that, or perhaps something that you realised? It sounds as though there's a theme around kind of acceptance for you, isn't there? And having to accept, and also grief, I think, has played quite a big part in what you're saying.
Yeah. So I think I mentioned at the start. So I love listening to music, like all kinds of music, singing in the bedroom when you're getting ready, or singing in the shower, things like that. And when I lost my hearing, I lost love for it, because I could only hear it through one ear, which that wasn't the same then. It still isn't. I can only hear it through one ear. So I just stopped listening to music altogether. But then that is part of my identity. That is like who I am. So again, only I could change that. So I started listening to it again, and then learning to listen to it just through one ear. And like, this is what it sounds like for me now. I listen to it every day now. So I have got my love for music back, to the point where I actually went on karaoke a couple of weekends ago. Yeah, so I can't hear myself sing because the music goes through my hearing aid. I can't hear myself anymore. So I took a lot of courage to get on karaoke for the first time in a good couple of years. That's happened, but I did it. I don't know what I sounded like. I couldn't hear it, but it was good.
Oh, that sounds as though things were very tough in the beginning. And, talking to you now, you seem positive and you seem, quite hopeful. Was there one particular attitude change that made a big difference, or a mindset shift?
So I did change my mindset. There was only me that could do it. I could either sit there in a hospital bed, become weaker and weaker, or I could turn around and go, this isn't me. I'm stronger than this. I'm better than this. I'm going to fight this. So I started walk. So that was when I was like getting out of the hospital bed. I was walking, trying not to use a wheelchair if I could help it, just to build my strength up. But again, the mindset, it's a powerful thing. It really is powerful. There's only you that can change it. If you start accepting these little changes, then the bigger picture kind of falls into place, if that makes sense.
What do you think made the biggest difference to your mindset?
I couldn't do it on my own. I needed help. I've had help from like counsellors, CBT, therapy, yourself. So you specialise in sleep, physiotherapy, fatigue, pain, is it as well? So I've not done it on my own. I've not been able to do it on my own. So there is absolutely help out there. And with guidance and support, like a lot of support out there, you kind of see things from a different perspective. You kind of learn new techniques, new skills and things like that. And when you start getting back into a normal routine, you kind of feel better about yourself. So like for me, it was like listening to music, going to the rugby again, getting back into work, seeing friends, seeing family. That stopped. So just these little changes, had a massive positive impact. And then from then on, I've got a new outlook on life, because when I was in hospital, I was recording my journey, like taking pictures, recording videos of my progress. So even now, I will look back and look how far I've come, just to keep reminding myself how far I was from not wanting to be here, not wanting to live in pain, to look at me now. I'm living a normal life. I'm doing the things I loved. I'm listening to music. I'm back watching my rugby team home and away. I'm back in work full time. I'm out seeing friends every weekend. So you can go from being at your lowest point, not wanting to be here, not wanting to carry on because you're that struggling, to this is me. This is my new 100%. This is my new life. I've accepted, I've grieved, and I've moved on.
Yeah. It's amazing, Heather, and I don't underestimate the journey that it's taken to get that to that new place, And I wonder, as you think about your future now, and as you think about what's next, what is next for Heather? What new things are there on the horizon?
I have been looking at doing a 5K, not running, because I know I never did run beforehand, and I'm certainly not going to run now. But I'd like to walk a 5K unaided. That's what I'd like.
And you're not far off, I think, if you're doing 2 miles already.
No, I'm not that far off, I don't think.
Fantastic. And if you were to say, look back on your journey, and you might be talking to people who are in a similar situation that you were in, maybe not with exactly the same diagnosis, but there are people who might be watching or listening to this who would really feel inspiration from your story. And I'm wondering what advice you might give them, or perhaps what you've learned.
Yeah, so one thing I would say, and I've mentioned it a few times on the video, is don't wait until you're 100%, because you might not get back to 100%. Your new 100% might only be 80%. So don't wait for that extra, because it might never come. Start your journey, your road to recovery, your normal life. Get back into work, start seeing friends. It doesn't mean you have to go out every weekend. Have people around, try and get into like a normal routine again. Grieve if you need to grieve. Accept your new changes, embrace them, because this is you, this is your life now. I accept it, because when you go through, when I went through what I went through, from not wanting to be here, not wanting to live in chronic pain, sleep deprived for months, mentally poorly, to where I am now, I'm living my best life. Yes, I might be deaf. Yes, I might have a blue badge. Yes, I might not be as quick as other people in terms of speed or walking. I'm still going through facial physiotherapy, because my face isn't perfect, but it's all part of your progress. This is who you are.
Absolutely, Heather. And who you are is absolutely amazing. I can't even tell you what a privilege it's been to share this journey with you, and also the courage that it takes to share your story. I've absolutely no doubt that you'll make a big difference to anyone listening to this. So thank you for taking the time and the care to share what's been a really difficult time, and also to share the lessons that you've learned, and to put those into some very clear words for others. So thank you so much, Heather.
And I didn't have a good night last night. Pain, a lot of pain. They put me on morphine, didn't touch it. So they increased it, didn't touch it. They put me on They put me on intravenous paracetamol, didn't touch it, so I didn't have a good night. I'm in a lot of pain this morning in my head, in my ears, in my face, but I've got my Weetabix. So I'm not gonna do a video, I don't think. Well, I like them eating me Weetabix because my teeth and my gums and that are really, really sore. So I think I'm gonna strip it. I'll see you soon. Just trying to eat a yogurt. I'm just doing these videos to record my progress. It's still shut there. I won't waste food, you know me. I think I'm done now. It's too healthy.